Today in the UN General Assembly elects 14 new members to the Human Rights Council, the UN's, of course, top watchdog body. But there is a big but. Among the contenders, Saudi Arabia, China and Russia, a selection that has upset other human rights groups. Some of the countries up to a seat have themselves refused to let outside human rights monitors investigate alleged abuses. Here's with me in the studio to take a closer look at the issue is Hillel Neuer, the Executive Director of UN Watch. Thank you very much for coming to the studio.
Thanks for having me.
So, Mr. Neuer, the Human Rights Council has a long history of members with a bad reputation. How come something like that happens?
Look, today is a black day for human rights. The United Nations General Assembly just moments ago elected China, Cuba, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Vietnam, some of the world's worst abusers of human rights, to its top rights body. This is the foxes guarding the chickens. It's absurd, it's hypocritical, and it harms human rights. There are millions of victims worldwide who look to the United Nations to be their protector, to be their voice. And what we're seeing today is the worst hypocrisy, and it's a result of backroom deals, politics, countries that see votes on this body as a privilege, trading. It has nothing to do with the official criteria, which are protecting and promoting human rights. It's very sad.
So does the Council have any constructive influence on the subject?
Well, it has a lot of influence, but unfortunately, only a small amount is positive. We had a few resolutions over the past few years on Libya, on Syria, on Sri Lanka, a handful. But the vast majority of the world's worst abusers continue to get a free pass. There has never been a resolution at the Human Rights Council on Egypt, Pakistan, Zimbabwe, China, Russia, Cuba, Saudi Arabia. They get a free pass. And one of the ways they do it is by being elected, by being there. And look, Saudi Arabia is a country which, if there's a woman who's a victim of rape, she gets punished, she gets the lashes. So to elect Saudi Arabia as a world judge on human rights is like making a pyromaniac as the fire chief.
There is no a certain law to ban the participation of a country that actually violates human rights?
Well, that would be logical, and we had a reform in 2006 which scrapped the old discredited Human Rights Commission, which had elected Gaddafi as chair, and we created the new Human Rights Council, which promised to do exactly that. Kofi Annan said we need a body where the countries who are the members will have a strong, solid record of promoting and protecting human rights. And world leaders said, here is this new body which will have solid members. And one of the rules is that you're supposed to elect countries on the basis of their record. And yet today we're seeing that the opposite happens. Saudi Arabia got 176 votes. And I think one of the most upsetting things is not that dictatorships voted for dictatorships, that's obvious, but the fact that the United States, Ambassador Samantha Power, EU's Catherine Ashton, their Foreign Affairs Commissioner, we, UN Watch and many MPs and human rights groups urged them to speak out, and they wouldn't say a word. So complicity, silence in the face of hijacking the world's top human rights body, silence is complicity, and I think it's tragic.
You are the Executive Director of the UN Watch. What does your organization do on this subject?
Well, we were created 20 years ago to watch the UN to see that it lives up to its own principles. The principles of the UN are noble: to promote human rights, to put an end to the scourge of war. And sadly, too many UN bodies, not all, there are UN bodies that perform more or less as they should, but a great many UN bodies have become politicized, they've become hijacked. And if we speak about the Human Rights Council, which was founded by Eleanor Roosevelt, one of the great idealists of our time, and we look to what happened today, where Gaddafi was the chair, supposedly it was reformed, and we have the Chinese Communist Party, Putin, the Castro regime. It's sad, and again, victims look to this body, and it sends a message around the world. And the message that comes out today is that politics has trumped human rights.
You know, if I may say, the key word here is hypocrisy, if I may say. Dr. Hillel Neuer, thank you very much for coming to our